Hey there, welcome to my channel, Leilani with the Magical Solution is here on TikTok, on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the places. Um, but we wanted to say what's up on this random Friday night. Hello, Arc Dragon. How you doing? Let's see who's over here. Hello, hello. We're out here. It's our book club. So I say this a million times, but I'll say it again. Like your girl is so busy. I'm so fucking busy. And, designating 1 hour a week to book club is really tough for me. So at least like on a consistent day at a consistent hour, it's really tough for me. So unfortunately, you guys are just gonna have to hang out with me and catch book club live just whenever you can. But if you don't catch it live, no worries. You can always go to my YouTube channel and rewatch the chapter or multiple chapters depending on how short they are. So let's get back to it. We are on I believe chapter 11. I believe we're on chapter 11 now of book 4. And this is of the Harmonial philosophy, which is a compendium of the works of Andrew Jackson Davis, who was a late 19th century, early 20th century medium before the start of spiritualism, who was writing pretty much his own, cosmology, his own doctrine, his own codices in a way, his own philosophies, his own mystical experiences, mystical sciences, and his interaction with spirits, right? So in this compendium, it's a book that compiles bits and pieces from all of his works. And the whole point of this compendium is to pick all these bits and pieces to explain one coherent theme from start to finish, from the cosmology of the universe to, spirits, to the science of spirits, to how it affects us now, like everything, right? So we have gone through an okay amount so far. This is a really, really big compendium. It's like 700, 800 pages. We've gone through a pretty good chunk of it so far. But again, if you're joining us for the first time, don't freak out. Just listen along, because the good thing about this book club is like it's not just me reading at you, it's me taking the time to pause, kind of insert my own thoughts, kind of help break down certain things, or to even get excited about something right along with you, right? To help you think a little bit deeper than just what we're reading. um, and hopefully that'll help. Hopefully, no matter if you're coming in new or if you've been following all along, hopefully you take away something from the live. That's kind of the whole point. All right. So let us share screen. Now, for those of you who are in TikTok land, um, understand that. Oop, nope, that's not what we want. Understand that if you want to see the actual text that we're reading, you're better off going to YouTube. Okay, so go to YouTube and go to my channel to actually see what we're reading. However, if you don't mind me hanging out with you and just me reading to you, I'm here. Here we go. So, chapter 11, entitled Traveling and Society in the Summerland. So, just a quick, flash. This particular book part is about the death of the spirit and what happens after death, right? This key term here, the Summerland, is essentially kind of like a heaven, if you will. It's kind of like another dimension or another level of progress, etc. Um, and the multiple species, the multiple energies that he has encountered. I'm pretty sure he's going to discuss how he traveled and what these societies are like in this chapter. All right, let's get to it. Mm. Hi, Malau. Nice to see you. Hi, Afro. Nice to see you. Thank you for stopping by, you guys. So, just a quick heads up. We're just doing our book club today. That's what we're doing. We're reading the Harmonial Bendiciones, our Harmonial philosophy by Andrew Jackson Davis. He was, a medium and a spiritualist that kind of informed what we would call spiritism today. And so we're on chapter 11. So let's get to it. So, having a power which is higher than organic force, the human will can overcome material gravity, and thus the spirit body may rise and float with the speed of light upon ethereal rivers of space. A voyage on the celestial seas may be accomplished quicker than a telegraph operator could record the fact for the daily press. By this power of the spirit's will, in harmony with invariable celestial tides, man will be enabled after death to travel from summer land to different departments of the heavens with more ease, infinitely more pleasure than you can now travel to foreign places on this globe. The Summerland, more especially those portions in connection with the inhabitants of Earth, appear to my interior eyes like a neighboring planet. It is the next room in the house, not made with hands, but there is an infinite number of other rooms. Characteristics and peculiarities of the lower sections may not prevail in higher divisions of the sphere. In that which lies next to us, the law of social attraction is an operative, as in this world. It is not easy to tell why, but the dwellers are gregarious and remain very near with each other. In more refined sections, the people are influenced by other interests. Gregariousness becomes distasteful to those who seek the finer attractions of the summerland. New and larger affections render former selfish relations almost antipathies. The next sphere of human existence is only another department in the great educational system of eternity. There, mankind has opportunities to outgrow the errors and follies of this life, and thus myriads become prepared for yet another ascension. If a man leaves this world in good spiritual circumstances, he may proceed at once to a better brotherhood and be engaged in higher duties in obedience to higher sympathies and attractions. Those who pass in darkness of spirit, who have brought upon themselves discord and misery, leave earth without these finer attractions, and they become subjects for the philanthropic treatment of others who have souls for higher sympathy. Individual affinities and antipathies come from the action of the temperaments of different spirits in the vicinity of each other. So it's interesting that he's saying this because if you recall from a previous chapter, he talks about how when we cross over, we tend to congregate with like vibrative spirits. So spirits of our same sort of interest field, of our same sort of vibration, we tend to couple with them. We tend to have like a soul family that we seek out upon death. And we go to these places, and these places will fit the mold of that particular little click that you got going on there, right? So now we're hearing it coming up again, but this time he refers to it as the temperaments of spirits, right? And he acknowledges vicinity. So what I'm gathering from this is after death there is these higher schoolings, obviously, that he's talking about, right? Like he's not talking about people who are in a different sort of frequency, a sort of lower frequency. He's not talking about those yet, at least not yet. But when you're going into these upper echelons of schooling is what he calls them. So this earth is a school. This is one like level of schooling, right? So when we pass and go to the next level, he talks about how what you've gathered here, the most finest, beautiful pieces of it, the pieces of you that you have perfected and purified to the best of your ability, that is what moves into the next sphere and attracts energies in that next sphere so that you can create sort of this bubble that is essentially a realm or a grouping um, that is acknowledged to occupy space. So that's really, really interesting that what he's saying here. Really, really interesting. All right. So when you pray, therefore, let be for the highest manifestations of the kingdoms of heaven, for a social condition above the plane of ungovernable attractions and repulsions, for blessings above the sphere of antipathies and unwise sympathies. Right? So again, it's this idea of being sympathetic, like your energies will be sympathetic to another energy, right? Attract another energy. But if your spirit before dying was already sympathetic to lower vibrational energies, then that is what you will carry with you. That can't go into the higher spheres, right? Because the higher spheres are about the refinement, about the perfection of spirit energy, right? And so, um, yeah, so that's what I meant. Okay. Okay, so mankind has yet to learn the difference between passional inclination and that spiritual love which attracts and ennobles its objects. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. The former is of an earth or earthy and is not found in the celestial brotherhoods. The wisest do not encourage an indiscriminate inclination. They rise into the celestial atmosphere of pure, immortal affection, and thus the wisest person in the Summerland is the most loving. Divinity in its central life is love. Fraternal love is at the bottom of the heavenly companionship. The best brotherhoods in the Summerland work diligently among inferior associations to bring about heavenly peace and concord. When the inferior societies are harmonized, the earth will be more harmonized also. In addition to these missions, there are others to those who are constantly coming from Earth and from the planets in space. And when we arrive, each in our turn, we shall find persons perfectly acquainted with all that we have ever done. Angels' eyes are clairvoyant. However faithless, however worthless, you cannot get away from them. Neither can you escape from yourself. Ooh, Andrew Jackson Davis. Look at him. Look at him on his pedestal. Talking about the angels see everything and you can't escape them, but you know what, bitch? You can't escape yourself either. That's what he said. That's what he said. Mm-hmm. That's what he said. Anyway, carry this memory with you through life. It is not the gospel of fear, but the doctrine of truth, which puts a check on the play of ungoverned appetites. Ooh, shit. Ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo. So, in the Summerland, as seen by clairvoyance, I discover three distinct associations of men and women, each occupying a position determined by the degree of cultivation, sympathy one for another, and power of approaching each other's sphere of knowledge and attainment. Each society is encompassed by a peculiar sphere or atmosphere, being an exhalation from the specific quality of their interior characteristics. So we're talking about an auric field right now, in case you don't know what he's referring to. He's talking about the auric field of a person. When we are breathing in and out our spiritual fluids, our current, it creates sort of this bubble, this sphere, this diameter around us, okay, that others can perceive and can even affect with their own little bubble around them, right? Anyway, every spirit has a peculiar sphere and also a general one in which it can exist with pleasure. Spirits know and associate with each other according to the quality of the sphere exhaled from their interiors and according to the relative degrees of brightness encompassing their forms. Did I not say this? Have I not said this to my students? Have I not said this to my mentees? Have I not said it to people that we have people on this earth today, okay, who have been purifying their spirit so much. We have yogis, we have bodhisattvas, we have people on this earth today that have cultivated their chi and purified their chi so much so that when they tune in, they fucking glow. They glow. Do you understand me? You turn off the light and a dude is out here radiating. You feel me? So that's what he's talking about here. That glow, that radiation, eso es tu luz. Eso es tu luz. That is your luz. And what that means is the more you cultivate, the more you engage in spiritual hygiene practices, the more you develop your faculties, the more you keep your spiritual fluids clean, the more light you will emanate. And with that light, my dear spiritualists, spiritists, and espiritistas, with that light comes a huge responsibility. And this is why the lighthouse is so important to us. The image of the lighthouse is so important to us. Okay? Because it represents being that light in darkness, being that place of comfort and safety, being that place of when spirit sees that, they say to themselves, I know it's safe there. I can go there. They will guide me. They will help. I can receive light and love from that space. That's what it means. And so and that's why there's such a huge responsibility in it, in what it is that we do. You know what I mean? Anyway, where am I at? Where am I at? Okay. So they have an affection for one another in proportion to the similarity in the degrees of love and purity to which they have attained. Thus are the three states or societies established. Okay. So in the first society, we have an immense number of infants and uncultivated spirits, as these have proceeded from earth. The atmosphere which encompasses and protects them is gloomy and rather uncongenial, because it is an emanation from uncultivated intellects, okay? So, viewed comparatively with the existing earth, there is yet an exceeding purity among them. They are in a plane of natural thought, that is, they are just emerging from the instructions and impressions of earth into the wisdom of higher societies. Now, in the second group, so let me break that down for you really quick. So, that first group, what they're talking about here is, and this is, I'm going to say this like I've always said it, you have no choice but to progress. Listen to me. Listen to me, please. You have no choice but to progress. That is the only direction. Okay? And I can give you a whole slew of reasons why. But this right here is another example, or at least another piece of evidencia within historical texts that talk about how when you die, no matter what, you are still going into these higher spheres. It's just the sphere in which you enter is going to be dependent upon the intellectual energy that is then imprinted into your spiritual fluids and radiates out into your little bubble, your little auric sphere. And that auric sphere is now, infused with whatever thoughts you had, whatever life you lived, right? And will now merge with other people who have passed, who have that same vibration. And there you are in this first sphere, in this first society, where it's a slightly more elevated than where we are, but it's still very much gloomy and uncongenial, because they're dealing with spirits of uncultivated intellectuals, people who smart, but did not put their things to work, right? Because spiritism, spiritualism, espiritismo, it's not about being intellectually smart only. That is one avenue of what it is that we do, right? It's also about action. It's about caridad, it's about charity, it's about service specifically. The word charity, we can even throw that out the window and say solidarity. Whatever you want to say, it's about action and putting your good works into action, right? And so this is like the realm of the individuals who were smart but never really did anything with that, and so it dies with them. And when you don't put your wisdom to action, you know what it turns into? It turns into depression, it turns into anxiety, it turns into racing thoughts, it turns into personality disorder, it turns into a symptom in the body, because all these thoughts are running around in your head, all this intellect is running out of you, and you're not transmuting that into the physical world. Do you understand? Do you understand why it needs to be that way? Right? And so again, these uncultivated intellects, this is also something that might imprint their atmosphere, that darkness, that gloominess, that hygienically poor environment. That sounds about right. That sounds like me if I don't have therapy for 3 months. You know what I'm saying? That sounds like me. That's my bedroom. That's my, you know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, let's keep reading. So viewed comparatively with that existing on earth, there is yet an exceeding purity among them, right? So no matter what, we are still progressing, we are still going into that next realm. Um Now in the second group or society, these are those who have become highly instructed in the principles and truths of the divine mind. All who die on earth with minds unfolded properly are congregated herein, because here they can associate agreeably. They are enveloped with an atmosphere of resplendent brilliancy, which indicates purity and elevation. It appears like the interfusion of many colors unknown on earth, so perfectly conjoined and blended in such harmony that the whole aroma is itself a representation of purity and refinement. It is a sphere emanating from the whole body of the society, indicating the wisdom of the spirits composing it. Their wisdom consists in a knowledge of truths and principles concerning material and rudimental things, while the inconceivable variety of colors surrounding them arises from dissimilar stages of advancement. Yet all are in the same grade of wisdom, thus form one society, which is just emerging from a superior knowledge of visible effects presented on earth to a perception of their interior causes, essences, and modes of manifestation. But they are not in possession of superior wisdom concerning the uses for which causes and effects are instituted. Okay? So here we are in now the second part of this sphere, okay, the second stage of the other world and traveling through this. Now we're in a place where the people who have grouped together because of their intellect, right? So like the last one was undeveloped people. You know, stage 1 was like undeveloped people. They may have had good hearts, they may have been smart, people smart, they may have been there, but like now we get into the brilliancy of people, the real creatives, the ones who have done art, the ones who do music, the ones who are inventors, the ones who are designers, the ones who are pushing the envelope and pushing society forward. Like these are the second stagers, because what they have mastered in the earthly realm before they passed was that they mastered the fact that as long as you met them on an intellectual level, Where you come from, what your religion is, what your culture is, what your tradition is, what your language is, what your gender is, doesn't matter. As long as you can meet me on an intellectual level that we all agree on an intellectual level about whatever's, then all of that other stuff can just be. It just is, right? So here they also acknowledge though that although this is a beautiful, beautiful aspect of our humanity, being able to connect on certain levels and not even see, quote unquote, see color. The problem with that is, and he actually acknowledges this. This is in the early 1900s. He acknowledges that they're doing this in the face, in the face of these inconceivable issues that are around, meaning that those differences, those varieties of colors that they are dismissive of, that's where the work is, where the wisdom meets the ground. So this is more of a social thing, the second level, where they fail, and why they are not in the ultimate level is they fail on a social scale. The first level was isolationism, just simply for not being with it, right? Just isolationism for whatever reason. The second level is elitism, if you will, this idea of exclusivity, that under certain conditions, all are welcome, right? The next level, let's get into it. So now the third level of society is clothed with an aerial garment, which is a perfect representation of the character and perfection of their interiors. I behold it in all the colors and in a variety of reflections proceeding from the subordinate societies. These render their spiritual emanations so very beautiful that language is inadequate to describe it. The third society is on the plane of effects, and those composing it have a perception of all ultimate design, of the universal adaptation of things to each other. Their minds are exceedingly luminous, laying open the externals of things, and perceiving the character of the interior. Their vision extends to every recess of their own habitation, and their knowledge comprehends all subordinate material existence. Their wisdom is light, love, brilliancy, and even ecstasy. The vast landscapes of the spirit home and are not only in a stage of emergence from causes to effects, but from their own sphere to the third world of human existence. Okay. So now we get to that third level, and the difference between the first and the third level is that the third level had the know-how to know what to put into practice and what to hold back from, right? So this middle level essentially is where Earth is at, where we're kind of in the second stage, in the sense that intellect and science and technology is really charging forward, but we are not in a moralistically unified state. And so because of that, when this world perishes, we would essentially be the masters of the second sphere, right? Because we couldn't put into practice how to implement our sciences and our technologies and our wisdom in a way that benefits all living things. We've only used it to destroy ourselves. And so that is where the issue is. Now, when you get to this third sphere, the third sphere is the sphere of energies that have finally figured that shit out. And they say, okay, so now we can be the best of the best artists. Now we can be the best of the best musicians and builders. Now we can be the best of the best this and create art as well while we're doing it and make our lives not only beautiful but beneficial to all living things on the earth. It becomes a co-creative process, and now we are likened to gods. We are entering a closer and closer purification of our spirits toward God. And that is the point. That is the end goal. That is the end goal. And so the fact that we're in this middle realm and half of us are like, come on, let's move to the third realm, or like, come on, let's get into the stage where we're actually collaborating, doing for each other, growing together, and making art where work no longer has to be an obligation. Work is something you want to do because it contributes to society. It has meaning and purpose, and it's beautiful because of that, right? So that's kind of like what the third sphere is all about. And so the goal of spiritualists, spiritists, and espiritistas who come from this lineage is that our goal is to elevate everyone around us, including ourselves, as best as we possibly can. If we have the luxury and we have the financial stability to do it for free, then do it for free. If we need to charge for it, be gracious, be understanding, offer opportunities for bargaining and whatever. So like it's things like that, because it's not about what I can get out of someone, and it's not about jealousy or anything like that. It's literally about the salvation of spirit. It's about your soul. And we can't get there by ourselves. We literally have to do it together. And I don't know how else to say this. So like community is such a big thing within the diaspora and the traditions of the diaspora. The community is such a big thing, and it's for this reason. When you find your tribe, when you find the people who are truly in it for their soul and for your soul, that love and that level of spiritual intimacy can never be replicated. You can't find that shit. You can't buy that shit. You can't ritualize that shit. You either have that connection, you share that current, or you don't. And it's important that when people are not on the same current as you do one of two things. You ask yourself, is my energy worth the investment of this person? Will they push it away? Will they make it difficult for me and them? Will it cause more issue? And if that's the case, then you cut the current, you let it go, you let it be. That means that their journey is not with you, it's going to be with someone else who does vibe with them. And you hope that they find that in this lifetime, and you pray for it, and then you let it the fuck go. If it is a person who you're willing to fight for, if it is a person whose current just may be wounded or may like require extra attention or extra care, and you're willing to put that in, then by all means do it. Because again, it's about everyone, and the more people you can get on board with that, the better, right? And so that's essentially where this sort of ideology is rooted from, is in this. Okay, so where are we, guys? Oh my god, I lost my shits. All right, here it is. Okay. Let me take a sip. Y'all got me tired. Let me take a sip. Mm. Okay. So, notwithstanding the dismilitude between the three societies, there is perfect unity among them and dependence upon one another. Absolutely, right? We've talked about this in previous chapters. When we're talking about the law of progression, just because you progress to another level doesn't mean you leave everything else behind, doesn't mean like the previous lives didn't mean anything. It means that you continue to cultivate the beautiful, the wisdom, the love, and the experiences and memories that bring you joy. These are the things that you take with you into the next life to be more refined, to bring about more refinement in you, to help connect all of your past lives together. You connect them through their joy, not through their trauma. I'll say it again. You want to connect to your past lives, connect through their joys, not through your traumas. You're welcome. You're welcome. There is a continual aspiring affection from the infant intellect to the high wisdom of the third society. There is a unity of action which causes all to live for one another, like a brotherhood. Each group is well situated in reference to the specific state which each is compelled to sustain. The conditions are perfect in proportion to the degree of wisdom and refinement. The lowest appears inferior in comparison with that which is above, but to man on earth, it would represent a high state of perfection. The lowest contains and the lowest contains and involves the highest, while the latter comprehends and pervades the whole. Thus, it is that all preserve an order in our lives and situations, and one is continually unfolding the possessions of another. Thus, all go onward to a still higher sphere of spiritual and intellectual elevation. I need to highlight this section right here. This little part right here. Okay? And I'll read it again. I'm going to read it again for those of you on TikTok. Here it is. Ready? The lowest appears inferior in comparison with that which is above, but to man on earth it would represent a high state of perfection. The lowest contains and involves the highest, while the latter comprehends and pervades the whole. Thus it is that all preserve an order in their lives and situations, and one is continually unfolding the possessions of another. So I want you to think of a Venn diagram. Think of a Venn diagram, you guys. You got 3 circles. I want 3 circles, and they're all interjecting. It kind of looks like the Charmed, that show, The Charmed show. That's that little book that they got, the symbol on their book, right? That symbol, the triquetra, is just the connected parts of the 3 circles in a Venn diagram, essentially. But anyway, okay. Now, in the center, where these 3 things kind of like interlap with each other, I want you to add another circle, a 4th circle. Boom. Okay. So the first sphere, the second sphere, and the third sphere are the 3 circles in the original Venn diagram. You and this dimension and this life and this known and yet to be known reality and multiverse is the 4th circle in the center. Essentially saying that all things are informed by all other things. So we in the lowest state still perceive these other 3 realms as higher states than us, right? But when you get into the upper realms, they don't see us as lower states. They see us as pervading states that were before. And that's a distinction I need you to really understand, because we're in the middle. And so to us, everything is above or below. But to them, everything is at once. And there's only things that happen right before and the thing that happens right after, the cause and the effect, right? Another law of nature, right? Okay, so now that we've gotten that under control, what that then says is that those who progress up the ladder are taking everything, all the information from those previous ladders, and refining it to the perfection of the final ladder, right? Like everything gets more, but it goes with it, right? And in the reverse, when you're at the bottom, you have access through your wisdom, through your connection with spirit, through your emotions. You have access to the information of the higher realms, of these other 3 realms. So as then to plan for your life here in this middle space, to be as purified and perfected as you can, to create art and be a co-creator as best as you can, and to die with the vibration that will land you in an upper sphere. Like essentially, that's the goal. Does that make sense? Does that make sense with the Venn diagram? I hope I didn't make it more complicated than I needed to. And so there is an order to this. There is an order to this. Now, Swedenborg is a philosopher, and we know that Andrew Jackson Davis, the one who's all this stuff is about, we know that Swedenborg was his boy, okay? Like in terms of pretty much hijacking a lot of his theory, a lot of his ideas. Just it can get a little fishy. uh, Swedenborg, Mesmer, some of these philosophers are also part of the lineage of Spiritism and spiritualism. Um, these are philosophers that informed the movement with their metaphysics, with their spiritual technologies, and their energetic sciences, right? Okay, so Swedenborg says truly that in the spirit world, the different associations, nationalities, and religious sects do continue. Philosophers of the atheistical schools make their notions a matter of association so that the children of parents who think as they do and persons in other brotherhoods have large gatherings where they enjoy festivities and conversation. Human nature here is human nature there. Archilerium is the name of an open pavilion where these teachers gather multitudes together. A brotherhood of affiliated souls is seen upon the west of a beautiful mountain called Starnos. Hereon is another pavilion of exceeding beauty, like a building made of trees, flowering shrubs, and countless vines, full of indescribable colors. Flowing by the side of this pavilion is a river called Apatravia. Ugh, oh God. The congregation sings to its tides, and there are times when the vast, many arched temples throb like a harp, responsive to the musical revelations of that celestial stream. The temple chief is a Turk who is still a follower of Mahomet. He often sees and adores the gifted man who represented Mecca. Other dwellers in this region believe that further portions of the Summerland will let you take great interest in the prophet of God. The chief has a young, bright wife, and together they constitute the host and hostess of that pavilion. The doctrine of polygamy is not practiced in this brotherhood. The race of Gnostics is almost extinct, but there are a few gathered together in the valley of the Ori, where Ephialtitis, the oldest among them, holds his levees. He was a scholar and propagandist in the early sect. He draws about him those who wish to hear of scenes and toils in Rome 17 centuries ago. La Somasata is the name of a convent or monastery, and there are persons who believe still that the Roman Catholic faith is God's exclusive religion. It is a place shut in by mountains that fill the distance like the Alps upon the Alps. Could the earthly astronomer gaze thereon? He would seem to be contemplating new star fields of beauty and magnitude beyond his ability to transmit in language or trace on maps. La Samosata is so vast that it might contain all Roman Catholics who have entered into the spirit world during many past centuries. It sends down inspirations and benedictions to fellow believers on earth. Zelabingen is a vast German association composed wholly of persons who had not acquired the power of song before death, yet possess an ardent love for music. Their present association actualizes what was here ideal. Some of them are centuries old and yet younger than any grown person on earth. For every change in the cycle of their lives is to them the beginning of a new age. Lindenstern and Marineski are Russian and Austrian associations. The former seems to be immersed almost wholly in matters of history, with reference to races of planets. They have lost much of their attachment to their native globe, but they are almost Teutonic in their studious methods. They are peculiarly truthful, unselfish, and disinterested. On the other hand, the Austrian assembly is concerned almost entirely with the formation of the best governments for the peoples of earth, though they do not seek to exert political influence over kings and emperors. Now, on the north of Mount Starnos is a beautiful Spanish association called Aca ugh, Aca del Laco. Aca del Laco. Okay. Or Eco del Eco. As nearly as I can remember. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm like that kind of sounds Spanish, but it kind of doesn't. So like, I don't know. But anyway, so from time to time the members journey to the Celebinjan society. Their sweet singers take part in the anthems of its groups, the voices blending like drops of dew in the air. Remembering this magnificent melody, I think sometimes that the early Christians may have derived from it their conception that the kingdom of heaven is devoted to the works of music and prayer. Oh wow. Wow, that's kind of dope. Let me see. Mona Zolapa is the only exclusively African realm that I have seen in the spirit realm. And it is there I learned that a large percentage of the progeny of Earth's early inhabitants never attained immortality but went out of sight into the laboratories of matter. Oh, how Ohaulat is the name of a brotherhood of Sandwich Islanders. Walavesta and Pasnada are regions of peaceful Indian tribes. The hatchet is really buried and the pipe of peace is smoked. The old dreams of sackums and wigwams, great forests and shining lakes for bathing and fishing are more than realized in the Summerland. Damn, that is kind of cringy. Ew, that was kind of cringy. I didn't like that paragraph. Now there are still other things to speak of. The vast white flowers, archibulum and aurelia, the general name for the class of pulsating lilies. The first is constituted so as to give an image of children grouped in its center. Many admiring spirits seem to think that they see therein a beautiful representation of the Son of Mary and Joseph when he said, "Suffer little children to come unto me." It is one of the most marvelous floral developments in the garden of God. It is contemplated by Rachel and other beautiful Jewesses of the old Hebrew scriptures. The Oriella are graceful golden plants growing by the peaceful homes of pure souls, where they vibrate in the soft spheres of the immortal sphere. Do not forget, in conclusion, that I am speaking of scenes in the Summerland, the next door neighbor to all that circle of planets of which the Earth is a member. What would you say if you should hear somewhat concerning the third sphere of the one beyond that? Or of another still higher than that? Ooh, I don't know. What will we hear? I don't know. What does it say? Okay. All right. So that's the end of that chapter. Hi, Megan. If you're still here, I am reading The Harmonial Philosophy by Andrew Jackson Davis, which is an 18th century, I'm not 18th century, an early 19th century medium and philosopher who was kind of like the precursor of the lineage of spiritualism, spiritism, and espiritismo. And he's a brilliant dude and took a lot of his influence from a lot of modern day science of the time, right? So this is like the age of enlightenment. This is the time when like they're really experimenting with things. So yeah, this is really meaty, juicy, delicious stuff. We're about halfway through the book. So now I'm going to say to you guys, do you have any questions? Do you have any thoughts? How are you feeling? And the questions don't necessarily have to be about the chapter that we just read. The questions can be about spiritualism, spiritism, and espiritismo in general. Like, we are open to that. It's a book club for open discussion, right? We're doing this for the purpose of learning and elevating our intellect, right? That's what we're doing. So talk to me. Mm. No? Hey, Dulce. Oh, don't worry, honey. Well, you already know where to find me. You guys can find me on YouTube for the replay. No worries. In the meantime, let me let you know. Let me let you know what's going on with your girl. Um so definitely subscribe to my email list. I only give one email a month, maybe two if I'm feeling ambitious. But sign up to my email list. You get a lot of, information, you get coupons, you get sometimes you get freebies and free downloads, free meditate guided meditations, etc., etc. So definitely jump on that. That's number 1. Number 2, we are going into class 4 of our spiritual development intensive course series for the Metamodern Espiritista. Class 4, let me verify this. Hold on a second. Class 4 is going to be about sacred spaces and altars, right? So we're going to be talking about that from the perspective of the Metamodern Espiritista, right? So up to this point, we had done the history, the definitions, the this, the that, all the stuff you needed to know, the foundations, the codices, what do spiritualists, spiritists, and the spiritistas actually believe? What do we do? That kind of stuff. The second class was on spiritual anatomy. The third class was on spiritual hygiene, and now the next class will be the class that's coming up this Thursday. 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Will be on sacred spaces and how to get that going, right? So as we move through the series, the information again builds upon the information from before. However, the classes are designed for you to come in at any point. So don't feel like you had to sign up for the whole series. You can still sign up for the individual classes. So that's number 1. Number 2, actually number 3, number 3 is that the deadline is coming. The deadline is coming, you guys. Do not wait last minute to sign up for the mentorship program. First of all, I don't like that. I don't like last minute stuff. I do not like that. So that's going to severely hurt whether or not you get in. So I suggest you get on that. Because the deadline is the 30th and you have to complete a prescription before the 30th. So you can't apply on the 30th. Everything has to be handed in before the 30th. All right? So get on it. And let's see what else you guys need to know. And a new blog will be dropping on the 15th. A new blog post will be dropping, so make sure you head over to my blog on my website to read all the previous ones. And the blog, and I'll be relaunching my show on the spring equinox on March 20th. Okay? And relaunching just simply means just fucking starting it again. Like I'm not out here trying to do anything special and be like, I got a huge lineup for you guys. Like, I'm over that. I did that. I'm over it. It just means that you're going to start seeing more videos where I interview people for the podcast. So, yeah, let me see. We have a few questions here. So that was it. Those are my announcements. But we have a few questions here. So let's see. When a spirit is elevating, when they're requesting to be elevated, what prayers are used? That's a really, really great question. That is such a great question. And we have so many of them. So here's what I'm going to say. When it comes to prayers, rituals, songs, anything like that, I will always defer you to whoever your elder is and whatever form of espiritismo you are practicing, okay? Because each of these traditions, yeah, we have roots in Cardicism, and we have our prayers in not our roots in Cardis, our roots in Spiritism, and our prayers come from that. At the end of the day, the most powerful prayers are going to be the ones that you write yourself. Okay? But if you're someone who needs the validation and the encouragement that comes with the fact that certain prayers have been prayed for centuries, which gives them a nice amount of strength, then again, defer to your tradition's practice. And if they don't have one, refer to your cultural practice. So, like, if you grew up Catholic, refer to the Catholic prayers. If you grew up, Muslim, refer to those prayers. Like, that's the kind of energy that you need to be kind of going towards, right? But the goal is to build your own confidence yourself, write your prayers yourself. Okay? That's all I'm going to say. Now, in terms of working with me individually, I have my own ritual, I have my own situation of how I deal with my spirits who want to elevate. Um and we can always talk about that like privately. Yeah. So the mentorship, let's see, does it have to be in full or can you pay as you go like the classes? Yes, you can pay as you go. I have different plans set up. So I have a bi-weekly plan, I have a monthly plan, and then I have a all-in-one shot. And the all-in-one shot will save you like a good amount of money. The monthly plan will save you a pretty moderate amount of money, and then the pay as you go, it'll just be whatever the actual fee of the class is. Um, let's see. Also, have I heard of the podcast called Telepathy Tapes? If so, what's your take on autism and mediumship and psych skills? I, you know, this is like I think the second or third time I heard that word, telepathy tapes. I don't know what that is. Is that a TV show? I don't know what that is, but I've heard of it. Like I've heard that word said, I think maybe on TikTok or on Instagram. I don't know what that is though. So let me know and I'll definitely look into it. Definitely. It's a podcast. It's a podcast. Okay. I will definitely look into that for sure. Because you know me, wherever I can cross the mental health field with spirituality stuff, I'm gonna do it, girl. I've been in the mental health field for over 20 years. Like that's my niche. Not only that, but I'm a little neurospicy myself. I got my own shit going on, right, that I have to work through. Um, but yeah, in terms of like my thoughts on the convergence of those two things, girl, I could talk about that shit forever. I could talk about that forever. Mhm. How about you, TikTok? Why you guys so quiet? Yeah. Well, nonverbal ones, yeah, nonverbal ones, nonverbal autistic. Yeah, yeah, I hear what you're saying. In terms of exhibiting certain gifts, but not being able to communicate that. Very, very, very frustrating. Very frustrating. And something that it could be hard to determine whether something is harmful or whether something is, just par of the course. You know what I mean? Because we have certain sufferings that we go through on a day to day that we acknowledge as being part of the course, just like, all right, this is the shit that we're doing today. And as always, right? They also have that. Just because they're nonverbal doesn't mean that there's a certain level of shit they don't eat. They deal with suffering in their own way as well that has varying degrees of acceptance where they're just like, yep, this is just what's going to happen, right? um And so when it comes to these gifts, it's always so difficult in terms of their reaction, um, between if it's that or if it's a gift. Hopefully that made sense. Hopefully that made sense. Okay. All right, so since there's no more questions, I don't see any questions anywhere else. I want to say thank you so much for hanging out with me. We considering how much we read and what we talked about, and we managed to do it all within the hour. I'm super psyched about that. Yay. Again, join me whenever I'm around. I'm too busy to dedicate one particular day and time to the book club, but if I can get on, I will. So just check me out then, or catch me on the replay. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. I am reading The Harmonial Philosophy by Andrew Jackson Davis, who was an early 19th century um, medium, and philosopher, who was kind of the precursor of the spiritualist, spiritist, and espiritismo movement. Um, so make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure you go to my website to subscribe to my newsletter as well. And yeah, thank you so much. If you guys have any more questions or any more concerns, drop me a comment or leave me an email. All right, y'all. Have a good night.